Hello everyone, welcome back. So I started out today to do a review video, or not a review video exactly, but a wrap up or a reading report or something like that. And I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board on that one and rethink it and try it again, because I tried 7 times and I crashed and burned each time. And I think I'm going to have to maybe sit down and write a page or two about each of the books, or at least two of them, and uh, just get my thoughts in order better, because I went off rambling and it didn't work out. But I still wanted to do a video today, and this is going to be a little bit odd because I have my phone turned to the other side. Like usually the lens is over here, and I have this, like, for the microphone, this little like box hangs off the end of the phone out of the USB, and I got tired of it leaning one way for so long, so I flipped it this way, and now the lens is over here. So if I keep looking over here, I apologize. Anyway, so about a week ago, or it was before Christmas, I guess. So maybe, has it been 2 weeks already? The video I did with the pipe wrench. Um, I said that I was going to do a project in 2026 where I go back and reread a bunch of horror short story collections. And so what I've done is I've gathered together a bunch of the collections, all of them as far as I know, unless I missed one. But they were all together on my shelves downstairs, so I just gathered them together and brought them up here. And I thought I would go over the books that I'm planning to reread and just talk about that for a minute and how that's going to work, and sort of the timeline for that, which I'm going to say right now, there's not really a timeline for it. So I could be reading a lot of these books all at once and then take a break and then read more of them all at once. And um, so we'll just talk about that first. So I originally planned to read each author individually and make one big video about each author and talking about all their collections at once. But I think that what would work better for me and for you is if I take and split those videos up, split those books up into separate videos. And so instead of talking about all of Clive Barker at once, or having to read all of Clive Barker at once and then talk about all of Clive Barker at once, I think it would be much easier for me and better on my psyche if I could split Clive Barker's books up and maybe read one, in the next couple of weeks, and then read one 3 months from now, something like that. And the same with Thomas Ligotti. So those videos will probably be coming out. I would like to say that I can probably do that within the next 6 months. Honestly, I could probably read all these books over the next couple of months, realistically, because I read very fast, or I read these stories in particular very fast because I've read them before, and some of them several times. So now we're going to get down into the authors. Am I talking really fast? I had some caffeine a little while ago. I feel like I'm talking rather fast, or maybe it's just that after those 7 takes, I'm kind of in a go, go, go mood. But I'll probably watch this back and realize that I am talking very slowly, because I'm not just the as someone commented, the Bob Ross of Booktube. I'm also the molasses on a cold day of Booktube. That's my own thoughts on that. So the first author on the list is Stephen King, and I am going to be rereading Night Shift, which I have already finished and will be talking about soon. This is my second copy of this edition. It's a little bit different from the one I have. I'm not going to talk about it in depth here, but I was kind of surprised because I had mixed up some of the stories in this book with the stories in the next book, which is Skeleton Crew. And I was kind of surprised by that because I really thought that my memory was better. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed returning to this very much. So the next book is Skeleton Crew by Stephen King. This came out in the mid-'80s, I think. Let's see. 1986, yes. And some of his best stories are in this collection. And some of my favorite stories are not stories you would really expect. So The Mist is in this, and I like The Mist, but I like Mrs. Todd's Shortcut best of all. And also Word Processor of the Gods and Beach World. I feel like Beach World is a story that no one ever talks about. And it is about some astronauts who crash land on a desert planet, and the sand is sentient. It's very much like something out of a Twilight Zone episode. And Nona, I've always liked Nona. That is a strange, strange story. And The Ballad of the Flexible Bullet, I think he wrote that as his alter ego, his pseudonym, whose name is Richard Bachman. And there are some stories in this that I've never quite liked, but I would like to return to them and see how I feel about them now. The Reach in particular is a story that has been anthologized many, many, many times, and I've just never really cared for that story. And the last is Nightmares and Dreamscapes. So I used to have the cover for this with like the cornfield and the scarecrow and everything, and it just got ripped up over time. This one is from 1993. Well, of course, this is one of my favorite of his collections, so some of my favorite stories are in this. I'm really interested to go back and see if my favorite stories are still my favorite stories, or if maybe, as in the case of Night Shift, what I found was that some of my favorite stories from when I read it several years ago are no longer my favorite stories, and I have been drawn to other stories. And I am wondering if I will feel that way about all these books. So, I don't guess I'm going to talk about the individual stories. I will do that later on, or we'll be here all day. So another author is H.P. Lovecraft, and I have him in the Del Rey edition. I also have the, I didn't bring it up, but it is, I think, The Horror in the Museum, which is like a store or a collection of stories that he either wrote on commission, like he was sent stories by other people to edit, and so that collection has stories that he edited, but it also has stories where people just had an idea and they sent it to him, and he pretty much wrote the story entirely, but they were published under other people's names. And so I really like these covers. I always have. These are by John Jude Palancar. I think that is how his name is pronounced. So I will probably start from the beginning and work my way up. This is The Road to Madness. This is his early work from when he was very young, and blood-curdling tales of horror and the macabre. So what I'm thinking about possibly doing is, so as you can see, like for this, the Tales of the Cthulhu Mythos, I've had these since I was in middle school. I bought them at Joseph Beth in Lexington. What I'm thinking about doing is, so it is H.P. Lovecraft and others. So it has H.P. Lovecraft and the stories of other people which exist within the Cthulhu mythos. And I was thinking that they have a big Lovecraft, like, complete collection of his fiction. And I may buy that. It's not particularly expensive, and I believe, if I remember correctly, I think I heard Michael K. Vaughan talk about how some of the stories in the Del Rey edition are the stories that were printed in magazines, and those magazine stories were edited by other people. And so some of the things that are in these Del Rey editions are not original to Lovecraft. They were changed by other people. And I'm thinking about buying the big collection where those stories have been returned to their original condition. And I think that would be really nice because I have never read those. I've never read them like that. And in fact, I mean, I knew that they had been edited, but I don't think I ever realized what impact that might have had on the stories. So this is Dreams of Terror and Death. This is the dream cycle of H.P. Lovecraft. So uh, some of my favorite stories are in this. The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, the Cats of Ulthar, the what he sort of has an alter ego in these stories, and I wish I could remember his name. He goes through several stories. Let's see, the Gates of the Silver Key. Why don't I open it up and read it from there? I think his name is Robert Carter. Uh, the Nameless City, the Statement of Randolph Carter, the Statement of Randolph Carter. Uh, and these are very, people don't seem to know what to do with these because they don't really fit into horror. They're more fantasy stories, but they're very dreamlike. And I really, really enjoy these, but I will probably be reading this last. The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath is his longest story. And At the Mountains of Madness is in here somewhere, and it's also relatively long. But anyway, it's going to be interesting to revisit Lovecraft in full. I don't know if I'll do it in this. I'd like to get that big collection. So the next is Clive Barker, and we have the Books of Blood, the Inhuman Condition, which I really, really like this cover, and In the Flesh. So I am pretty sure that these are individual. I can't remember if maybe some of the stories in this book or in these books are in Books of Blood, or if these are a continuation of the Books of Blood. Barker is very well known for his very explicit sexual horror, his erotic horror, I guess you could call it. He was not afraid to go. He still is not afraid to go to some pretty disturbing places and some very disturbing imagery. And he's sort of moved away from horror as he's gotten older into fantasy. I guess dark fantasy. I really don't know very much about fantasy, if you can't tell. I remember really, really liking Books of Blood, and I remember liking The Inhuman Condition, but I don't particularly remember enjoying In the Flesh all the way through, but I cannot remember what's in them. And so, let's see, there are only 4 stories in the Flesh. In the Flesh, The Forbidden, The Madonna, and Babel's Children. So I really don't remember this one at all. It'll be kind of interesting to go back and see that. I'm looking forward to Books of Blood. I've also read some of his books. I've read Cabal. I read half of Cold Heart Canyon, and I read... No, I take that back. I didn't read Cabal. I'm thinking of The Damnation Game. I read The Damnation Game. I read his he wrote a book about a boy who is taken to a different dimension, and every day it is Christmas and your birthday wrapped all into one. And but every day that you are gone is a year that you are gone from the real world. And I wish I could remember the name of that. It was The Thief of Always, and I enjoyed that not quite as much as his Books of Blood. And I also read The Hellbound Heart many years ago. It was the first thing of his I ever read, and I'm pretty sure that I read that before I ever saw the first Hellraiser movie. I had seen the second Hellraiser movie a long time ago. It's still my favorite of that whole series. Just the imagery in Hellraiser 2 is quite interesting. I mean, that whole labyrinth and everything, and so something about me is that when I was very young, up until about, I guess until I was in about 10th or 11th grade, is that I used to have these very, very involved dreams of being in labyrinths, and not like, you know, smooth-walled labyrinths like in House of Leaves, but in being inside buildings that never end, um, going through doors and crawling through very small spaces and coming out into very large spaces, and maybe you go outside but you're not really outside. You just think you're outside, and you open a door and you're back stuck in this endless labyrinth. So that was kind of interesting to me, uh, about Hellraiser 2. Anyway, but that's neither here nor there, is it? And the next is Thomas Ligotti. So I think I have these in order. Songs of a Dead Dreamer, of which I remember very little. I think Speak to Me, Always with Labyrinthine Eyes is in this. Or I probably said that wrong. It's been a long time since I have read this. No? Oh, yes. It's Drink to Me Only with Labyrinthine Eyes. So I did get that wrong. Dream of a Mannequin, The Frolic. The Frolic has been anthologized several times. I don't remember it particularly well. Ligotti has a very strange quality to his writing. He's rather unique, and I'm looking forward to returning to Ligotti, but I have to say that he probably, more than any other author, he probably affected me as a teenager the deepest. And so you can only imagine the effect that had on me and the way that I was, because Ligotti is a very pessimistic writer. He is an avowed anti-natalist who believes that it would have been very much better for every one of us had we never been born at all. He wrote a book of philosophy called the something against the human race, the conspiracy against the human race. It's called the conspiracy against the human race. So after that is Grimscribe. So this is Songs of a Dead Dreamer and Grimscribe. I do not remember liking Grimscribe. And something that I seriously regret is I used to have the paperback of Grimscribe, and I didn't like it, so I got rid of it. And I regret that all the time. I know exactly where I took it. I donated it at a Goodwill in Stanford, Kentucky. And I hope whoever got it liked it. So after that is Noctuary. When I first saw this book on a shelf, I did not expect to see it at all. And I went to a Half Price Books. I walked in and it was there, and I saw it from a distance, and I like lurched across to the shelf and snatched it, because you just never see this. You never see this, and I paid, I think, $5 for it, maybe 6. I was very happy to find this. This is, I think personally, this is maybe Ligotti's strangest collection, because it's, from what I remember, he has this theme, this ongoing theme throughout all of his short stories. Not all of his short stories, but his short story collections, about like clowns and puppets, and this is about that quite a lot. And also there is a strange sort of Venetian quality to this, like a Renaissance quality to this, that is really hard to describe, and I would like to read it again in order to understand that quality, or rather to see that again and have a better understanding of it. So this next one is the first Ligotti I ever read. It is Teatro Grotesco. This is the book that affected me more than any other when I was young, when I was 14, 15, 16, and I bought this at Joseph Beth in Lexington, where I bought the Del Rey Lovecraft. And this is a very pessimistic, cynical, nihilistic book that is really hard to just describe in a few words. All the characters in this book feel that life is the main characters anyway, they are dealing with stomach issues quite often, which is something that Ligotti deals with himself. They are depressed people living meaningless lives, and things, very, very strange things happen that hardly seems to affect them at all. And once again, there are like clowns and clown puppets and a lot of things in this book are about work and life and the absurdity of society. And so, let's see, I'm trying to remember. Some of my favorite stories are The Town Manager, Sideshow, and Other Stories, which is it is several stories all around a theme. Our Temporary Supervisor is pretty good. It's about these people who work at a factory and their old boss goes missing and a new boss comes in, and they don't ever see this boss. All they see is like a weird buzzing swarm behind this frosted glass window, and every day they have to work harder and harder and longer until finally they are just working and working and working until they drop. In a Foreign Town in a Foreign Land, that's a series of stories. Gas Station Carnivals is my favorite story in this book and one of my favorite stories ever. It is about a man talking to his friend, telling him about how when he was a kid his parents would take him on these long trips and they would stop at these gas stations that had like sideshows. Sometimes it would be like a playground, sometimes it would be a really small roller coaster, always kind of decrepit. But the one that intrigued him the most was there was these gas stations where they would walk in, and there would be like a carnival tent in the backyard, and they would go in, and there would just be a man standing on stage dressed as a clown with his back to the audience, and he would kind of shift this way, kind of shift this way, and that's all he ever did. He never turned around, and so he has been seeing that man again. And the next is my least favorite, probably, just out of all of them. It is My Work Is Not Yet Done. And this is a collection of stories. I cannot remember if this is a collection of stories or if this is one big story about a man who works in a corporate office and the people that he works with screw him over, and he takes out his revenge in some very strange and unsettling ways. And I did not really enjoy this book, and I'm not particularly looking forward to rereading it. This is probably the one that I am looking forward to the least of all, but I will do it. And the next two are just single volumes. I don't have more by these authors anymore. The first is Ramsey Campbell, and so this is the great short fiction of Ramsey Campbell, 1961 to 1991. And I really, really do like Ramsey Campbell's writing, particularly from this era. And he got better from 61 to 91. And the thing about Ramsey Campbell that I have noticed, and I don't know if it is because he is British, and so maybe some things that British readers might understand better than I am able to, but there is a very subtle quality to some of his stories that means that I have never quite been able to work out what was going on. There's a story in this in particular about a boy who goes to spend a month or so with his aunt, and I have never been able to understand exactly what is going on in that story. I think I have an idea of what was going on in that story, but I'd really like to reread it for the fourth or fifth time and understand it finally. My favorite story in this entire collection is called Macintosh Willie, and it is about it's about some boys who go to this park quite often, and there's like a bathroom, a restroom in the middle of this park, and some kids have spray painted their names Mac, Tosh, and Willie. But a legend springs up about some, like a dangerous man who lurks around the park called Macintosh Willie, and this is about a legend coming to life, and that is my favorite story in this collection. And there are a lot of good ones in this, and I'm looking forward to all of these. I keep saying that, but this is my first project on Booktube, and I'm really looking forward to it. And the last is Joe Lansdale's Bumper Crop. So this, I really like Joe Lansdale. He has a way of being really over the top without it being, well, it is absurd, but it is not ridiculous, because Lansdale is a really good writer, and he never pretends to not be writing absurd fiction, to be writing these over-the-top stories of horror and things of that nature. So, for instance, there is a story in this called Fish Night, and Fish Night is about two traveling salesmen who stop to sleep in the middle of nowhere on the side of the road, and all these, like, above them, all these fish appear in the sky, and it's just beautiful, and they're entranced by this. And one of the guys is, I'm going to swim away into this beautiful fishy sky, and something very unexpected, or maybe rather expected, happens to him. And it has been many years since I've read this collection, so I don't remember it particularly well. I gave the rest of my Joe Lansdale collection to my grandpa, and I think he wound up giving them to someone else. So I kind of thought he would give them back to me, but it did not work out that way. But I don't guess I stressed that enough that I wanted them back. So anyway, that is my 2026 horror collection reread project all laid out. Like I said, I'm hoping to do this within the next 6 months, but it may take longer than that. I have already read Night Shift, and I'm moving on. At the moment, at least, I am moving on to Skeleton Crew. And after that, I'm not sure if I will move straight into Nightmares and Dreamscapes, or if I will perhaps read something else to break up the Stephen King pattern I'm getting into here. I want to thank you for joining me today. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.